Hello and welcome to this episode of the Reset Podcast. I'm your host, Laura Mignot. Each episode I bring in an amazing Black woman as part of my 29 Days of Magic campaign. And today I am super delighted to have Kelli Anderson. She is a Director of Brand and Experience Strategy at VMLY&R. It's going to be a great conversation. Take a listen. Hey, Kelli.
Hey there.
How goes it?
It is a beautiful Friday.
Beautiful morning. It's a beautiful morning. So the way the podcast works is the first question is always the same. Answer's always hilarious. Yours, I have no doubt. So, Kelli, what was your first job?
I was an attractions hostess at Jim Henson's Muppet Vision 3D at Walt Disney World.
That is a very long title. What exactly did you do?
So my coworkers were everyone, from the whole Muppets gang. So Kermit, Miss Piggy, and there was actually a 3D show, but they had a live element. They had a live character, Sweetums, the big lovable monster. So, I was at Walt Disney World, and anyone who is at any type of what they call an attraction, either a ride or a show, we are a hostess creating the magic.
Oh my God. Okay, what was that like? And how old were you?
I was 19. I was 19. It was awesome. It was absolutely awesome. And they were actually taping this Summer Jam series that Disney did back in the day. So I was a bikini girl extra number 2 for the Tyrese segment at the water park.
Oh my God.
And it gave me a line, I think, which is why I was extra number 2. I had a different line than extra number 1, but I wore like a JCPenney bathing suit and made it work. So yeah, VHS memories.
Wow. That is extremely specific, and I'm sure you have many stories to tell about that foolishness. Oh my. Wow. Yeah. Okay. So you go from being this amazing attraction specialist to where you are now. What has that career journey been like?
You know, the crazy thing, I think everything I learned at Disney has always helped. It's been asked about, so many years later, I still get asked about Disney because I think there's something to be said for no matter how old you get, that sense of wonder, magic, especially as you get older and you start kind of getting fond with memories of family and childhood. I don't think that sense of wonder and just creative expression goes away. So I'd say what I do now of being able to see that and see how those strategy and insights for consumers really come to life ultimately in a creative expression, it never goes away. It's always applicable.
Yeah, well, that's the fun thing about not asking this question, because no matter what people suggest mention as part of their first job, it always correlates in a way to what they do now. Like those lessons learned, either like, okay, I will take these good skills and mature them, or I don't ever want to do anything like that in that position ever again. And I learned from that. So I totally get it. So what is it you actually do now?
So right now, I actually have moved into a new role where I'm able to take both brand strategy and traditional, more CX, and put them together to find really unique solutions for some of the clients. So it's been new for me. It's a new experience, but I'm excited to tackle it.
And so what's your day like? What are you building? What are you talking about?
I'm building everything from looking at strategy specific to Black and Hispanic millennials to also trying to kind of figure out just the journey of internal transformation for some clients, of figuring out what's the best way for them to internal market to their own employee base. So it really runs the spectrum.
Awesome. So, I think folks get confused when they think about talking to Black and Brown audiences, and they've still think that we are a monolith. Can you please explain why that is not true?
Yes. The monolith. The funny thing is, I am a proud graduate of an HBCU, and I think in some ways, even HBCUs in the current discussion around them has maybe been seen as a monolith in some ways, but going there and really being able to see the diversity of Black and Brown people, it's really opened my eyes. So growing up in Michigan and being able to meet folks that are representing all of the West Indies, island nations I had never heard of, various areas of Africa and international. There's so much more to us as a people, and there's so many more layers beyond just the skin color that you see. I may look exactly like someone in my dorm, but she represents a very different background than I do, but yet we are still seen out in just every day as just being Black women. So I think taking that extra layer and also just kind of appreciating the differences that we can kind of joke and chide about with our community, because we know actually how diverse and how powerful that is.
It's so funny. And it's part of the reason that I do 29 Days of Magic, coming into the fourth year of this, because I want people to understand that for every bucket you could ever imagine, there is a dope Black woman. Like there is no like, oh, well, that's not for us. Yeah, here you go. Pick one.
Right.
And also, it's not that hard to find us. Like that's also kind of my big deal for doing this. That like you say you can't find speakers or folks who can do this, and we always make the joke about how Beyonce was able to find 24 Black trombonists.
Yes.
So.
And I will tell you, I was very, very happy to see. I am not a proud product of Tennessee State University, but just to be able to see the band, win 2 Grammys this week, and listening to just the collaboration of not only what I recognize as just kind of the traditional HBCU band experience, but also showing kind of that history as it goes to Negro spirituals, having really interesting features with really prominent talent within gospel and inspirational music. It just really shows that we can really take some of these things that we've seen, maybe homecoming season or even throughout our college or community experience, and really still be able to introduce it in a very creative way to a wide audience, and to see it being honored with a Grammy. I just was like, that is absolutely phenomenal, not only for TSU, which I do have a proud cousin who's an alum, but also just for just kind of the Black community, that Black experience. And for that to happen during Black History Month, I thought was phenomenal. I'm so excited about that album.
Yeah, that was so awesome. And it's so funny because you have TSU winning, and then you have Shamara Joy winning as a 22-year-old jazz singer. And I had the pleasure of meeting her a couple of months ago. And I remember saying to her, because I feel like I'm Miss Cleo, you're going to win a Grammy because you're that amazing. And she's 22 years old. She's from the Bronx. She's dark-skinned, curvy Black girl. And I just could not be happier because, again, look, we are all different. Like we can be in so many different places.
Indeed. That was phenomenal to see. I remember my old jazz band days with my clarinet back in the day, scared to kind of riff on solos and do a lot of improv and whatnot. So phenomenal win for her. And I think also just being able to show that, yes, there are women in jazz.
There are women in jazz. There are Black women in jazz. There are dark-skinned Black women in jazz. So obviously, a lot of your work goes around, helping brands understand culture, and I feel like there's so many faux pas. Even and as everyone was really paying attention, in 2020, and that's not falling off a cliff. Why do you think that is? And what do you think we can do to sort of get people back on track?
The crazy thing is before I started talking to you, I saw something that I felt like was a little bit of a faux pas that I'll be speaking to some folks about later today. I think that there's a very fine line of balancing. You're happy that some of these brands and some of your clients are paying attention to just this consumer base and, beyond the monolith, but also just representing various kind of cultural realities that we may be interfacing with your brand, but we're also maybe going back to a community that's a little bit different. So we may not be actually taking your marketing claims and call to actions. They may not resonate for Black and brown people the way that you think they do, but it doesn't mean that we are certainly not a receptive and open audience. But getting past those faux pas, I think, really takes the representation to the heights. I've been very proud to participate in our agencies. We launched a Detroit Experience Studio in the Detroit office, and being able to see students that were representing various high schools across Metro Detroit and really seeing their unbridled passion about creativity, looking at advertising as a career, and something that they could really be able to kind of build a life in, just really shows us that we are kind of nurturing that next generation of talent that's needed, because we need more voices, more representation. We need more of them in the room. And it can't just be me and maybe one other girl this afternoon in a phone call that I have, but also just them being able to see more opportunities to see more of us makes us look less like a monolith. Maybe that doesn't feel like such a gut reaction that they go back to. And I think that really shows progress that's much, much needed.
It's true because I take my job very seriously, and the fact that folks have to see that we have different jobs, that we exist, that we are super senior, that we are C-suite, and it's in different jobs. It's not in the things that you think, oh, that's the only thing you can be when it comes to a creative field. It's like, nope, there are so many different places that you can be. I always, whenever I'm talking to high school students, I always show them, like, here's how you can get a job that pays like six figures, like 2, 3 years after you started. Who in the room is the problem solver?
Sure.
Who in the room is the plug? Like, knows everybody, can get you guys on, get you guys into all the things. And who's the person who will get you out of trouble? Because that's literally what you need foundationally to be a producer. Because you have to have a dope network, you have to be a problem solver, and you have to be cool under pressure no matter what. And if you're in high school and that you're already that person, then I have a job for you. And I think oftentimes, sometimes it feels very unattainable because they see that all these jobs must require all these degrees and 8 million years of study. But that's like, no.
Right. Exactly. They certainly don't have the requirements that they may think that they do. But I think it's also just as important with the work that it sounds like you and I are both doing with high school students. It's also just for them to see us. Sometimes just kind of seeing the faces at the table and seeing these relatable stories and people coming from the communities that they're now, living in and going into adulthood. I think just really being able to see that and seeing people that are looking relatively young. I think when I was growing up,
yes,
my mom was showing me someone, and yeah, she's retired and she did this like 20 years ago. But here are women and here are Black men that are doing this today. And, they're being able to make their marks. And that's really inspiring and hopefully very, very, making them feel like they can be very aspirational just as much as they want to be.
it's so very true. And so, building off of that, what do you think you tell 18-year-old Kelli?
18-year-old Kelli. 18-year-old Kelli was a finance major. Like as I was saying, I was learning about that summer at Disney. We also learned about literally how they finance the animal kingdom and the tree of life, which was fascinating. Definitely over my head as an 18-year-old, but I felt like I was leaving with trade secrets. And the funny thing is even though I said I needed to be very diverse, and I ran to the Chicago Tribune, and then I ran to Wall Street after that at Goldman Sachs, I still feel like there's so many things that I learned in just learning how to treat people the right way, anticipating what guests' needs are, trying to be the first to come to them to present that need. When I think about the opportunities that brands tell us about surprise and delights and being able to honor on what that brand promises to be in the marketplace, the simplicity of what that was when I was an 18. I wish I would know like how that could actually be a driving force throughout my career, but definitely no regrets. I think the only other thing I would have loved to capitalize on is I do have a sincere love for public policy. And I do wish that I had done a little bit more with that at a younger age. I came into it older, and I would love that 18-year-old to be a little bit more cognizant of that. Because I think that it really became real to me, not only becoming an adult, but especially living in the South. So that's kind of what I would tell her. But for the most part, I would give her so many high fives. That summer at Disney, she was living her best life, like running around, and just her first time with a car, a job, and an apartment. And she maximized it. She had her brandy braids from Almost Doesn't Count, and she was doing it. I specifically like referenced that video when I made my braid appointment before I went to Disney. So she knew what she was doing, because I still love Brandy now. So she knew. She
Oh,
knew.
wow. You had the brandy braids for almost, wow, that is
Almost Doesn't
so
Count. Yeah.
specific.
It
Wow.
was, it was, I feel like this whole conversation we've had, yes, I am very specific,
I
but
love it.
need to
Um,
remember sometimes, like, that's the girl with the brandy and the Mickey Mouse pen. But yeah, that was me.
you like because you and now that song is in my head. Thank you for the earworm, Kelly. It's like, so I'm sure along the way in your career, you've had those challenges where you're like, what in the actual hell? So I would love you to share a time where you had a challenge where you're like, no way, I'm going to figure this out. And then you did.
You know, I'd say the biggest thing, I had some time at the airlines, and I think the biggest part of that was having my hiring manager actually, I mean, I loved her. She was a big part of the reason why I joined the airline, but um, she left within like 30 days of me signing the paper. And I think that's the first time where I realized that I had made a career decision not only on my interest in the role and interest in the career area, but also just my interest in being a part of that team and being under that leadership vision. The biggest thing I learned from that experience is it doesn't mean that some of those values and things that I saw within the team that she built goes away with her, just because new opportunities and new career, things present themselves to people every single day. And we see that certainly with unexpected moves that people make. The biggest thing is realizing that the reason why those values and what she instilled in a team were so attractive to me is because I actually possessed them. They were actually inherent in me. And I could kind of take that light and take that baton for her and be able to create it in myself. And it was difficult to do, and kind of building my teams and putting it together in her absence, especially only 30 days on the job. But I really honed into, these are the kind of four core tenements and core parts of the vision of what she was creating. And there's no reason why I can't be able to forge my path here, even though she's found a different opportunity that's led her and her family a different place. So being able to kind of realize that confidence isn't always in the leaders to instill in you, but you actually possess yourself.
Yeah, you are the one. That's what she
You
saw.
are the embodiment sometimes of what you feel like attracts you to certain leaders in industry that are really making big moves and doing amazing work and things for their brands and their clients. But who's to say that the reason why they're kind of drawing your attention is because you see yourself in them, but you also recognize that you bring really interesting talents to also take that to the next level and make your own mark and your own imprint on it.
That's such a really amazing story and so necessary. I think sometimes folks get freaked when that happens, and it's like, did it ever occur to you that the reason they hired you was because they knew you'd be the one?
Yes.
like,
It is
they
all
didn't
about
make.
the relay race. And I think we think everything is a 100-yard sprint. And that's really one of the things that I would probably also, to your last question, also just remind my 18-year-old, because everything was just, I'm going to do this sprint and it's going to be me and I got to collect as much as I can. And then I've got to rest and go for the next race. And sometimes it's a little bit longer of a race, and it
It
includes more
is.
people and resources than you think it does.
Exactly. So obviously you do a lot of work. How does you make time for Kelly? What do you do for your self-care?
My self-care, I actually told my mom that I had gotten behind on that this past week and put the phone down and immediately was at a spa like an hour later.
Good.
And sometimes I just, your body just kind of tells you to stop. Your body tells you to rest. I embrace sleep. I embrace naps. And one of the things I'm realizing for my self-care is also just having real heart to heart with people that I miss, people that I've missed that I haven't really seen as much. Certainly, we all went through a really crazy pandemic. COVID even, clearly it's not over. I had a heart to heart that I was trying to do with a sorority sister last week that I couldn't do because she had COVID. So these things and just kind of really treasuring the outreach and kind of s'mores moments with folks, trying to create more of those fireside chats because, you laugh, you cry, you really remember those times, but I'm wanting to have more of those kind of real specific moments and memories with people that I miss. And I have found that not only with, taking care of your body, looking at your mental, your physical health, but also those close knit times with people I'm really, really treasuring because there are some people that I just wish I would have been able to talk to in the last couple of years that are gone now. So I find that also part of my self care and also just very illuminating and quite a blessing to be able to share moments like that with people I love.
I love that. And it is necessary because like you need that trip to the spa and like do not pass go. Go ahead and make
Mhm.
that trip. Because we need it. But also the connections matter so much. And it's similar. Like I think I've made much closer relationships from friends who were like, nearby in my COVID bubble. But then all the folks who were further away, you miss them. And you figure, okay, well, these calls, these Zoom calls, these group chats become so much more important
Very
as a
much,
result of that.
very much so.
And so last question for you. Do you have a give and or an ask of the audience? And so this can be anything from here's a great book I read, here's a piece of advice I think you should check this out, this new show on Netflix, anything you want.
Um, You know, I know sometimes in was it icebreakers and stuff, people kind of ask you what your superpower is. I don't know. I think every time I'm asked that, I think it changes. But one of the things that continues to be a trend of whatever superhero I choose is just this mantra of just go for it. Whatever it is. That's what I would tell your audience. You're curious about that bar class, take the intro and see if you like it or not and just go for it, and it's okay. It's okay if this isn't really a match or this kind of works out for what you want. I really feel like it's we talked about self-care and just taking care of yourself, but just this sense of wonder and things that I kind of said that I was going to do, but I might need to get somebody else with it. I might need to research it. I mean, do your due diligence depending on the degree of difficulty or risk that it may have, but just go for it, whatever it is. And it's scary and it's daunting, but some of that I think also just kind of reminds you that, you know what, you're still alive, you're still here, you still got another day to try it. So go for it and see how it works out, because I think that the wisdom you have of that spirit that you had when you were younger, it takes different forms. It may not be on the continuity basis that it was in your 20s. Um, but you'd be surprised of the things that actually just really bring a chuckle to yourself. So just go for it and see where it leads. And it's okay. And also have the grace to understand that it's not really about the outcome. It's about the journey and pride and confidence that you took to really take a step.
I love, love, love that. Thank you so much. Kelly, you're just a batch full of amazing wisdom. Thank you so much for being part of 29 Days of Magic. It was such a great have conversation with you.
Likewise, I had a great time. Thank you.
Awesome. And so we'll put all the details in the show notes so you can connect with Kelly. She's amazing and brilliant and has way too much pop culture knowledge, uh, and which we didn't get a chance to chat about. But thank you so much for being on the show again. And that is our show.